Greetings everyone, welcome back. In the previous video we were working inside the lobby game mode and we got to the point where we can display our lobby menu. Real quick refresher here. I'm actually going to do a standalone to demonstrate this as well. So let me do a standalone version of the game. It's going to load off screen here for a second and I'll bring it in a second here. So we got to the point where we can host a game, we can enter a server name, my happy server, specify the number of players. Max of 8, we can hit accept. Says my happy server, 1 of 8. So we got this far, we got our lobby menu set up. What we're going to do in this video is actually set up the connected player widget so that when a client connects, their information gets populated in this window here. So we'll get to that point. We could also, actually didn't mention this or demonstrate this in the previous video, we could start the session at this point. We haven't selected any characters or anything yet, but we could start the session and it will take us to our default choice of Arena 01. So just wanted to show that as well. So let's go ahead and continue. And before we start working on the connected player, there's one thing I noticed. We didn't finish inside of our lobby player controller, and we're going to need to do this before we do our connected player. So let's open up our lobby player controller blueprint. And inside of it, we created the save game check. If we double click on this function here, but we didn't actually save or load any of our player settings. So when we try to go to our connected player widget and populate our lobby menus, because we haven't saved or loaded any information, it's not going to be displayed. So let's go ahead and do this and get this out of the way real quick. So first thing that we'll do, we've done this before. We're going to say, does save game exist? So does save game exist? Connect that up. Promote this to a variable and call it player settings save. So that's what we've called it in the past. Going to compile, select all this text here, copy and paste that because that's our slot name, and let me move this down. Okay. If save game exists, let's hold B and left click, create a branch. Let's connect this up and connect this up like so. If save game exists, we're going to load a game. So I'm going to create a function for that called load game. Let's also create the save game function as well. And let's go back to that save game check now. And we're going to say off the true, load the game. Off the false, save the game. And then also, after we're done loading, we want to resave it. So I'm going to copy this and say save the game too. So let's do save the game first. I'm going to open up save the game here. And inside of it, what we'll do is right click, create a save game object. Create save game object, and it's going to be of the player save game. Then going to promote that to a variable. Variable will be called player save game ref for reference. Let's move this over just a little bit. I'm going to hold control and drag this in now and say is valid. We did this before in our player options, but we're doing it here as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's move this over and then connect off the is valid like so. What we'll do then is we will, let's go ahead and take our player save game reference, copy, paste it, and say set s player, no, not that. We need to compile first. Let's compile. And off of this, we should be able to say set s player. Not quite sure why I can't. Is it set underscore? What do we call it? What do we call it inside of our player save game? I forgot. Blueprints. Load it off screen. It's called s player info. So why can I not access it here? Oh, we need to cast to it first. Let me delete that real quick. And let's delete our reference. We need to cast to it first. That would probably help. Let me delete that as well. Yeah, we were just creating it, but we didn't cast to the player save game. So cast to save player save game. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here. This is the one that we want to promote to a variable. So we'll promote this to the variable called player save game ref. So we can say is valid. So Now we can say control drag this in and say set S player info. That's what we wanted. Set the S player info inside of it. Let's connect this to that. And let's take this is valid, plug that in like so. And this S player info is going to come from our player settings here. So we could take this, drag it and drop it on top. Like so. Once we've done that, then we can say save game to slot. So save game to slot. Save game object is going to be this here. So let's plug that in. Slot name, player settings save. Like so. And that should be all we need to do for the save game. Let's go back and do the load game now. So let's do the load game. And the load game is going to be right click and say load game from slot. Let's connect this up. And slot name is going to be players settings save like so. Let's make sure that we cast this time because that would probably help again. So cast to player save game. Now casting to our player save game, and inside of it we can get our S player save. So get S player save info, and let's go ahead and let's break this apart because we're going to do something here. Let's break this apart. We don't want to necessarily set the player settings here. We don't want to plug this in like this because I'll show you why in a second. So let's delete this. And let's get our player settings. Hold control, drag this in. Let's drag off of this and set members, because we only want to set some of these. So set members in player info. So we're going to get information from our save file. Let's restore all pins by right-clicking. Connect this up. All we want is the player name and player image, because we're going to set our player character to the base whenever we connect to the lobby. So we don't want to pull whatever they had saved in their save file because we're going to reset that essentially. And we could leave this to not ready. We could leave player character image to null. That's all fine. So the player name, we can take player name, plug that in, player image, plug that in. And that's all we're going to set. So whenever we load, that's what we'll do. So let's compile, save. Let's take a look at our save game check. So once we're done loading, we're then going to save that and overwrite it whenever we connect to the lobby, essentially resetting it, except for our player name and player image. So with that, our save game should be done and our load function should be done. Let's close this out and let's go to the UI and lobby folder and let's open up the connected player widget. And inside of the connected player widget, let's go ahead and work on the designer. And we'll also do the graph because the graph's going to be super short. Inside the designer panel here, let's go ahead and let's delete the canvas panel. I also, in between videos, I changed this, I think. Let's change it to desired on screen just so it gives us a better indication of what we're looking at here. What we'll do is we'll take a horizontal box. So let's take a horizontal box here, drag that and drop it on top. Hit F2 on this and we'll call it the player slot. And inside this player slot, we're going to have some text. So take some text, drag and drop that inside, like so. And this text over in the details panel, we'll change this to say not ready, just to get an idea of what it will look like. Something like that. And let's see what else. This text, we will center it up here and here. So it's going to be centered up. And we're going to need an image next. So let's take an image. Drag that, drop that on top of the horizontal box. This image is going to be the selected character image. Let's go ahead and rename it to that. And let's go ahead and I'm noticing to the right in the details panel I have some things that you shouldn't have. I'm going to remove this binding because you shouldn't have that just yet. You'll have it in a moment, I promise. Let's go ahead and make some changes to this. So we're going to right click on this and we're going to wrap it with a size box. That size box we're going to define now. The width, the override, we'll set this to 100 by 100. Like so. We'll also add some padding around it at the top here. We'll just say 10. Kind of push it away from our text here so it kind of stands out a little bit better. And let's see. Let's continue now. Let's go ahead and add another image inside the horizontal box. This image is going to be the avatar image. And over in the details panel, you shouldn't have this binding just yet. We'll do that in a moment. So I'm going to delete that. It should appear like so. We're going to wrap this with a size box as well. Wrap with size box. And this one, we're going to do half the size of our selected character. So I'm going to override these. Set these both to 50. Like so. And we'll center this one up, like so. And we'll also add some padding. Just push it out a little bit more. So this is going to be the avatar, our selected avatar of our players. Again, you can change these sizes if you'd like. This is just what I put for now. Last thing we'll do, we'll take a vertical box under panel, somewhere in here. Where is it? There it is. And we'll put that inside of our horizontal box, and inside of it we'll have some text. So let's take some text. So, and this text is going to be the player name. So, and we'll center that up. Something like this. We need to do that on the actual vertical box, actually. So let's go to the vertical box and center that up. The reason we put it inside of a vertical box is if you decide later that you want to have additional elements that you want to keep track of for your players, such as something like the player's experience, EXP, or level, etc. You could have that underneath their player name like this. You could just add that to this vertical box here. We're only going to be worried about the player name, so we're just going to leave it like that for now. Okay, that's what our player card is going to look like. Our status, our selected character, our avatar, and our player's name right next to it. Let's compile and save. And let's hop over to the graph and do the graph. And your event construct and event tick may be grayed out. Mine is not because I did some stuff in between videos. So I'm going to delete this event tick, and you can as well. We're going to use the event construct. And what we'll do is take our player info now, hold control, drag that into the graph. We're going to break it apart. So we'll break the player info. And let's expand this. All we're worried about is the player name, player image, player character image, and status. We don't really need to worry about the character here because we're not going to be displaying the actual character in the connected player widget. So we're going to promote these to variables. I'm going to right click on this, promote this to a variable, which we'll call name of player. And we'll put it inside the player info and replicate it. Let's connect this up. And let's right click on this, promote this to a variable called player avatar. And player info replicated. Player character image. Let's right click on this, promote this to a variable, which is called the image of selected character. It's a long variable name, but that's fine. Let's change this to player info and replicate it. And then the last one is the status of the player. So let's right click on this and say status of player, player info, and replicate it. Now with all of those, we should be good to go. We can add a comment around this and say populate the connected player widget with player's info. Let's compile and save. And let's do our bindings now that I had already done, but let's do them again. So for the first one we'll do is this text here. This text should be bound to our status of player. Let's go ahead and do that, status of player. This one here should be bound to our image of selected character. So image of selected character. This one here should be our player's avatar, so player avatar. And this one here is going to be the name of player. Now with all of that, we should be able to compile and save. And we should be able to test this now. Let's go ahead and do, let's do number of players to 2, and let's do new editor windows. So move this over. And on the server version, I'm going to host, enter server name, say 6 players, land, accept. Mr. Nice Guy's avatar has joined. Let's see, let's go ahead and add, find a match. Land is fine for now. Now when this guy connects, he's going to use the same information here because he is pulling from the same save file. So let's go ahead and accept. And it does also say Mr. Nice Guy, and it says not ready for him. And we have no characters assigned, so it says none there. You could add a different, you could add like a question mark or something, or some kind of different different thumbnail, I guess, is the word I'm looking for here if you'd like. But for now, we'll just leave it blank. But again, it's pulling the same save file. So in order to test this, you could create another version of the project locally on your computer and then go into the save settings and delete the save for that second version of the project. And that's the way you can get around testing this with 2 different save files. We'll probably do that a little bit later to kind of showcase this. But for now, I think we're doing good. We can't select a character just yet, so we can't change any of this information here or assign a character. Before we do that, we'll do the game settings on the client side here. So we'll do this game settings and allow the server to adjust this. We'll work our way down the list before we get to the select character. So that's going to do it for this video. We'll pause here. We'll pick it back up in the next video where we start working on the game settings window. Thank you guys for watching.